The next day, for the first time, I went to the headquarters of the ship. The room was large, an emptied storage room with guns, maps, sonar radars, walkie-talkies, and giant harpoons lined the walls, and a table topped with old maps and papers. As soon as I entered the room, I saw a man reading a book leaning on the table. It was George. The British soldier greeted me with the full delight of the Queen, and we chatted for a while about what the hell we were doing in the middle of the deep Pacific. I walked back above deck to the bow of the ship. I have to admit that the view of the clouds was amazing, but the dull blue water did get a little boring after a while. Turns out the ship was even slower than I expected, but for the loss of speed, it made up with size. The ship was massive, almost as big as a large commercial fishing boat. The boat was, let me say again, massive. According to Captain Carl, we were 60 miles offshore, heading to the Black Cove along the coastline. Now, the Black Cove wasn't just a place you get to using a kayak and a rowboat. The Black Cove was located in an extremely remote area, tucked right beside a very, very deep trench that was about 3 miles deep. So, it's very hard to get to the cove. That was the reason why the cove was so feared. No one could disprove the rumors because of the very few people who entered the cove to disprove the stories. When I first moved into the town at the age of 21, the first rumor I had heard was of the cove. An entire cargo ship had mysteriously vanished while traveling a mile away from the Black Cove. When a recovery team was sent, the only thing they found was a couple of gigantic pieces of metal with huge bite marks on them. About 2 hours later, I heard Zach and Carl calling us up to the upper decks, onto the main deck, and I ran up to see everyone on the deck, murmuring and gawking at something. It was a deep white mist. Lots of it. It was so thick you could only see a couple meters out into the sea. But for some reason, the mist didn't come near the boat. It was as if there was an invisible circle around the boat, protecting us from the mist. But the mist wasn't what people were looking at. Our ship was passing by boats, big ones. Some were fishing vessels, other were cargo ships and sailboats, but they were all broken, destroyed. They barely kept afloat, and some were partially submerged. The boats were old, and giant holes dotted the sides of the massive vessels. Only one thought came into my head, a horrible but true thought. Something did this, which probably means we're fucked. As we passed by the graveyard of ships, Ben walked up to me.
Pretty creepy, huh?
Something did this.
What?
Something destroyed all of these ships. This couldn't all be coincidence. How much of a dumbass are you? I glanced over at Zach, who was leaning over the starboard side, looking out at the fog. And he suddenly looked stoic and excited to kill monsters as he smirked. He walked up to George and Captain Carl said 3 words that were barely a whisper.